Alright, so today we're gonna start analyzing songs. So I figured we'd start with kind of a classic, A Day in the Life. So these analyses are really quick. It's we're just gonna look at the form of the song, we're gonna look at the chords, and we're gonna look at word painting. So let's look at the form. I think the story goes something like this, where Paul had a part of his song and John had a part of their song, and they just put it together and it became A Day in the Life. Which is literally what the song is like. That's the form of the song. You have this one idea, which is the beginning, and then you have this strange transition, and then you have another idea, which is Paul's song, and then you have again another strange transition, and you have John Lennon's song at the end, and then a little outro, which is basically the same musical material from the first transition. So if we start, and what I really want to highlight is the difference in chords from John's song and Paul McCartney's song, and what those actually transmit. So that's kind of it loosely on form. So just once again, you have John's song, which starts at the beginning, right? I read the news today, oh boy, about a lucky man who made the grade, right? And that part of the song is in the key of G major. Then you have a weird transition. Then you have Paul's song, which comes out of that transition in E major, right? It's it represents a very strong relationship because he's woken up at that point. And then you have another transition, which is kind of in between C major and G, and D major and A major. And then we're back, we kind of cadence on, and we cadence back onto G. So that's the general form. Next, let's look at the chords. So in order to understand the chords, we have to understand the bass line first, because the bass line is like the core of the harmony that's used, because your lowest sounding note will always give you what the strongest harmony is. So we have G at the beginning, and then for that whole part we have a sequence of chords. I'm not going to name all of the chords out because it's not as important. What's important is that you just follow the bass. So it's basically a descending bass line from G down to A. So listen to the bass. I read the news today, oh boy. See? About a lucky man who made the grade. And though the news was rather sad, E minor, well, I just had to laugh. What happened there? There we got a new chord. We got F major, which is kind of just showing us a different version of what's going on. He wanted to kind of surprise us because he had a different thought, right? Every time there's a different thought or a different word, you want to color your phrase in such a way that you're showing something new and subtle. It's very important. And he basically repeats that again, right? Nobody was really sure that he was in the house of cards. Okay, so all the chords there, you had G, F sharp over B, so kind of a B minor chord, then E minor, then C major, then B over E minor, but still, it's because the bass is moving down, we don't really recognize that chord. It's just a passing chord that brings us into A minor. So if you want to look at the important chords, it's really G, going down to E minor, going down to C major, going on to A minor. So what is that in terms of Roman numerals if you're analyzing the harmony? It's 1 with descending material to 6 to 4, and it ends on 2. And it's strange to end on 2 because 2 gives us a kind of uneasy end, right? We're not really back at our home chord again. And then in the arrangement they emphasize those that semitone. Good. So that's the end of John's part in the song. Now the transition, I believe they had like just, if you listen closely you can hear the piano doing that because they're just staying on E minor. And what's really interesting is that they just had this orchestra come in and it basically played whatever over that part and created this type of noise effect transition. So you have all that noise happening, and then you land really cleanly on E major, which is a completely distantly related key from where we were before, which was G. And notice the difference, that the best way to break down the song is you have John's dream world and Paul's real world, right? So the dream world is exemplified through the descending bass line. They never hit the 5 of G, right? Which is a very important thing to remember. The 5 of G, it will be D major. And there's no D major ever in that first part, at least not one that's strong enough to say, hey, we're in G. Because metaphorically, if you think of that and you say, hey, we're in G, hey, we're in G, it doesn't exemplify the dream state that John Lennon wanted to show. But it's complete opposite from Paul's part. Paul's part is just 1-5. It's E major and B major, with that D major, which is also the 5 of 4 in E major. So what that means, basically, for those of you who don't know what that means, 5 is the 5th chord on, if you look at the scale degrees, if you're going through the scale, 5 is going to be, say, D for G, or in this case, B major for E major. So then you have another 5, you have the D major, which is 5 of A. So basically, 5s are very strong. They solidify tonal relationships. They solidify the key you're in. So what better way is there to solidify your existence in the real world than to express it using that type of relationship? Which is why, possibly subconsciously, Paul used those chords. Now, the debate whether he was doing that consciously or not is for another video. But regardless, it's part of what makes the song really great. So, woke up the light of day, dragged a comb across my head, and we have 5 of 4. Made my way downstairs and drank a cup. Looking up, I noticed I was late, right? It's completely opposite from what we had in the first part of the song. And then, another awesome part is when he says, and somebody spoke and I went into a dream. Where are we now? All of a sudden, we've stepped into another key area. We've stepped into C. Well, really, we've stepped into G. And then, right? And now we're in A, right? Until we finally cadence, like I said at the beginning, on G. End of the song. So it's a lot of information. There's a lot going on in this song. We haven't even really touched what the melody is doing, but I really wanted to show you guys just the form, right? Because there's no chorus and verse, and that's what we're used to in songs. So there's no chorus and verse. There's just parts, different parts that are connected in really, really clever ways. And the main thing I want people to leave this video with is the chords beautifully express what is being said. Now, those can be thought of in vague ways. You know, you could be jamming with your band and say, well, we need something dark, or we need something that feels this way or feels that way. Well, what I'm trying to provide is that there are reasons why it feels that way, right? So if you're distant from your core, from your key area, it's going to feel a certain way. If you only use subdominant chords, it's going to feel a certain way. So it's not really an accident that John Lennon picked these chords to exemplify a sort of dream state, and Paul picked other chords to exemplify a sort of real state, right? Woke up, got out of bed, dragged a comb across my head, right? He's getting ready for work or something. And someone spoke and I went into a dream, and he's pushed back into that state. All of a sudden, they directly modulated into a different key. So that's a short analysis of the chords in A Day in the Life and the form. If you have any questions about what I've spoken about here, in terms of harmony and how it works, please feel free to comment and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos like this.